The story opens with Patrick, an elderly man, sitting alone in his home listening to the radio with a small glass of wine on the table. As he listens to a love tune, he remembers a young woman peeping into his car through the rain outside his house. As a heavy rainfall falls, Patrick's thoughts begin to mirror the scenery. He set aside a vial of clear liquid. Outside, lightning flashes and there is a loud knock at his door. Patrick carefully looks toward the door and orders the guest to leave. However, the knocking continues and a woman shouts out from outside, pleading to be let in. Patrick hesitates before opening the door, revealing a rain-soaked young woman desperate for a ride to town. His car is parked just outside the trailer. He scans his kitchen and then steps aside, allowing her in. Shivering and drenched, she declines the all he offers, insisting she just needs to get to town. Curious about her late-night predicament, he learns she simply ran away. Unfortunately, his car is broken and buses aren't running at this hour. He apologizes for the delay in answering, explaining that local kids often prank by knocking and running off. Noticing the glass on the table, she asks to use the phone, but Patrick seems distracted, surprised by her claim of swimming at the beach. He notices her muddy, bare feet and wonders how she got here. He invites her to sit, sensing her exhaustion. Reluctantly, she takes a seat and he offers tea, which she declines for a cigarette he doesn't have. As he places the tea in front of her, she repeats her request for a taxi, mentioning she's nearby but can't walk in this weather. Patrick realizes she's not from around here, the swimming season ended long ago, and storms like this are summer's domain. He offers her alcohol instead, but she remains focused on the phone. He hands her coins, explaining there's no mobile, and she'll need to use a payphone beyond the locked park gates. He adds that the locals are strange, filled with the same fear he feels. The woman expresses her gratitude for his assistance and prepares to leave, not wanting to impose further. However, Patrick reminds her that the park is still closed. Reluctantly, she decides to stay and wait for her clothes to dry. As she stands there, curiosity takes over, and she starts asking Patrick questions which he answers with care. He shares his background of growing up by the coast before moving to the city in his 20s. While exploring the room, she discovers some feminine items on her dresser, including a small watch, and confesses her own unemployment, noting their shared misfortune. Patrick, however, disagrees, recounting his past as an electrician until a shocking incident made him leave that life behind. He reflects on how people are drawn to danger, seeking thrills in risky activities like skydiving. Meanwhile, she finds a locket with a lock of hair. Patrick continues to ponder human nature's attraction to risk before inquiring about her living situation. Her vague responses raise his suspicions, especially when she claims to be unfamiliar with the area, even though he finds her face oddly recognizable. He takes the locket from her and suggests she take a warm shower, noticing her shivering. She eventually agrees and heads to the bathroom, still cautious of Patrick. In front of the mirror, she fiddles with an earring before stepping under the water. She suddenly feels the water cascading down her body, turning murky with streaks of blood swirling away into the drain. Panic sets in as she hears Patrick knocking, bringing a towel. The water clears and peeking from behind the shower curtain, she spots the towel hanging on the door. Glancing in the mirror, her forehead shows no signs of injury. Meanwhile, Patrick heats soup on the stove and offers her a dry sweater, mentioning it belonged to an ex. He reassures her he's single and she can keep it. She confesses her own solitude, struggling to care for herself, which makes family unfeasible. She sees herself as independent, drawn to danger only to regret it later. As Patrick pours thick red soup into a bowl, he's surprised by her self-awareness. Most women, he notes, blame others for their mistakes. She suddenly regrets agreeing to stay late at work to lock the gates, alarming Patrick when he notices her earring. Moving to the couch with the soup, she doesn't eat but asks about his nights. He admits to insomnia, saying aging brings restless nights filled with nightmares, unlike childhood when sleep came easily after scary cartoons. He washes the pot, watching the water turn red and thick like blood. Patrick contemplates how nightmares intertwine with reality, flooding his mind with dread and a longing to escape to innocent dreams. Outside, lightning strikes again, prompting the woman to wonder how she got in when the park gates were locked. Patrick shares her curiosity. Suddenly, a knock echoes at the door, and he asks the woman who might have known she was there. She looks confused, claiming she told no one. When he opens the door, it's empty. Rain lashes down, wind howls, and thunder rumbles. He explains that kids from the trailer park enjoy pranking him. As he steps back to the sink, the woman glances at the door, recalling she saw him lock it. Meanwhile, Patrick discreetly examines a vial, and the woman, noticing his boots by the couch, pours her soup into them. Suddenly, the power cuts out, shrouding the trailer in darkness. Patrick flicks on a flashlight, scanning the ceiling for signs of movement, speculating a fallen tree might have taken out the power lines, meaning she'll have to stay longer. Reluctant to wear the soup-filled boots, he hesitates to check outside. The woman feels awkward, admitting her imagination ran wild, and now she's embarrassed. Patrick reassures her, saying she can leave whenever she wants. He heads to check the circuit breakers and she follows, flashlight in hand. Patrick opens the relay box, sharing a childhood tale of fear during a blackout. The woman glances at a toolbox and spots blood on a hammer, but when she shines a light on it, it's clean. Then she notices scratches on Patrick's back and offers to get first aid. In the bathroom, she searches the cabinet and finds her missing earring among other items. In a panic, she tries to put it back but drops it down the drain. A chill runs through her as she senses something behind the shower curtain. Pulling it back reveals an empty tub. Meanwhile, Patrick drifts into memories of a wrench and a car. The woman returns, announcing her departure. Patrick urges her to stay and play cards. Admitting he only knows one game, she confronts him about the earring and he accuses her of snooping. She insists she's trying to understand the chaos and firmly states he's leaving, asking for the key. Confused, Patrick wonders what scared her so much. He feels wronged, having welcomed her with warmth and drinks, yet she accuses him. He laments how women come into his life only to disrupt it. What's she even doing here? A woman starts shouting for the key, but Patrick calmly informs her the door is unlocked. She tries it and, embarrassed by her outburst, decides to stay. As he deals cards for a game of I doubt it, he jokes about her pouring alcohol into his sneakers. For the first time that night, she smiles. Patrick wonders where he's seen her before, and she muses that as people age, women start to look alike, all running from something. While playing, Patrick shares funny stories about his neighbors and she admits he's been avoiding reality and her flaws, confessing she was drinking at a bar before the storm. He recalls her mentioning the beach but, in the spirit of the game, claims he doesn't believe her. He then reveals a lie about his sweater, sharing how he met his late wife at a gas station, where she asked him for chips. Initially thinking she was homeless, he was surprised to find her well dressed. They shared a quiet moment, but she later died from an overdose. No one has visited him in ages and he expresses gratitude for her presence, saying it makes him feel alive. He pours more into her glass, but as she lifts it, she spots a lipstick stain, reigniting her suspicions. The storm worsens and Patrick steps outside. Suddenly she hears a phone vibrating and follows the sound to a back room, discovering a phone on a bed with a dead woman beneath the sheets. Terrified, she tries to hide and plans to escape through a small window, intending to smash it with a hammer she thought was bloodied. But when she picks it up, it looks bloody again. Realizing her only escape is through the door, she steps out of the storage room and runs into Patrick, who captures her and ties her up. He pries her mouth open, forcing a strange liquid down her throat. She fights back, but Patrick drags her to the bedroom, tossing her onto the bed beside the lifeless body of another woman. Desperately, she struggles to free her hands and escape through a tiny window. Patrick begins his chilling monologue about the woman next to her, recalling how she asked for chips and willingly got into his car. As for the current woman, he questions her expectations of showing up at a stranger's house in the dead of night. Fate has nothing to do with it. He declares it's all about choices. She feels herself slipping into unconsciousness as he reveals he's given her a lethal substance. He reminisces about his first victim, who approached him during a storm, seeking a ride. He recalls the tattoo on her ribs, her face lost to time. Today he boasts of his luck, 2 kills in one night, secrets buried deep. Sin, he muses, is merely a myth. No God exists, only a conscience that can be silenced. As the woman slips away, he covers her face, haunted by memories of a stormy beach. A tattoo on her chest jolts him. She's the same woman he murdered years ago. Plunged into a nightmare, he's surrounded by the ghosts of his victims, filling his home with laughter and mockery. Darkness engulfs him, pierced by the chilling sound of his father's ventilator, a childhood terror. Drenched in blood and despair, he faces the police's relentless knocking. His latest victim emerges, compelling him to drink from a vial, while the others taunt him into madness. Then, silence. Patrick awakens to find no storm, no woman, just a hallucination. The door knocks again. He opens it to see children fleeing. He laughs, realizing he drank the solution in his delirium. Locking the door, he collapses and the story concludes.